How's it going, guys? My name's Evan. Some people call me ESP, and welcome to ESP Poker. As you can see, we made it to Vegas. Just got off the plane, and the first place we are going to hit is Caesars Palace. Heard the cash games here are pretty soft, so thought I'd try to book a win to start things off in the right direction. And with that being said, let's get into it. Right away, I can tell this table is pretty soft, except for the guy to my left. He's allegedly been playing since midnight, and it's currently 10 a.m., so I think he has an idea of how to play this game. My plan for this session is to avoid playing hands against the guy to my left, unless I have a good hand. I'm under the gun and look down at King Queen offsuit. I make it 10 to go, and then the player to my left 3-bets it to 30. It folds all the way back to me, and although it's not much more to call, I would be out of position, and this just isn't the greatest hand in a 3-bet pot. So I stick to the plan and release my hand. Next, we get a pretty good looking hand. We have Ace-King suited in the big blind. The player to my left straddles for $10. Middle position calls the straddle, and when it gets back to me, since there's one call, I decide to 3-bet a little bigger. I make it 40 to go. It turns out either player didn't have anything, as they both released their hand. Sticking with the theme of good hands, here we have pocket kings under the gun. I make it 15 to go and only get a call from the small blind. We see a flop heads up that comes 6-8-9 with 2 clubs. Although this board's going to be better for his range, I'm still going to bet it in case he has a draw. I decide to bet 20 and he lets it go. Here I'm on the button with pocket 10s. There's a limper to the right of me. I make it 10 to go and only the limper calls. We see a flop heads up that comes King Jack 7 rainbow. I consider throwing out a c-bet here, but before I can do that, the limper decides to lead out for $15. Based on the action and the board, I think we have a pretty easy fold here, so that's what I do. Over the next hour, I was just playing way too many hands, and it was affecting my stack as it drops a little under 250. But we start to heat up a bit as we look down at pocket 6s. I decided to limp. I don't really like this move. Although it's a passive table, I really should be raising this hand. Nevertheless, the button limps and the big blind checks. So we see a flop 3 ways that comes pretty nice. It comes 6-7-8 with 2 diamonds and 1 heart. There's a bunch of draws out there, so when it checks to me, I decide to bet $10. The button folds and the big blind makes the call. As you can see from the big blind stack, he doesn't have much left, so when the turn comes an ace of clubs, I decide to bet 20, hoping that he calls to set up a river shove, but unfortunately, he lets it go. Here in middle position, we have 9-7 of clubs. The player to the right of me limps. I decided to limp, not a fan of it, but that's what I did, and the big blind checks his option. We see a beautiful flop 3 ways that comes 8-7-7 with 2 spades. The big blind checks, and the player to the right of me, who just sat down, decides to bet $10. I decide to just make the call here, hoping to bring the big blind along, but he makes the fold. The turn is an absolute brick. It comes to 2 of diamonds. Again, the player to my right only leads out for $10. At this point, he has about $80 behind, so I want to choose a sizing that would set up a good river shove. So I elect to raise it to $30, and he calls immediately. The river comes the king of clubs, which shouldn't really change anything, so for that reason, I push him all in, and he thinks about it for about 30 seconds, and eventually elects to make the call. We show our hand, and he mucks. This was a much needed hand as it brought me back in the green. I played for another hour and dragged a couple small pots here and there, but nothing too interesting. Then I got the email saying my hotel room was ready, so I decided to rack up and hit the cage.
Just finished up at Caesars and checked into my hotel at Bally's. So we were in for 300, out for a nice amount of 369 for a profit of $69. You know, not a big win, but it is nice to get going in the right direction, especially because I was down to like 225 at one point, so it was nice to crawl back from that. This brings our 33 episode total to a profit of 1403. Not sure where I'm going to play tonight, but definitely going to play again later. And with that being said, I'll see you in the next one.